experts who will share their insights on the GCC visions and their impacts on national development approaches. I'll start with an introduction to the topic, a brief introduction, and then the speakers will open the floor for them to give their presentations, and then we'll have questions and answers. So as you know, I mean, all GCC countries are rentier states, they're resource-rich countries, and they do feature very unique systems of governance and policymaking. It's unique to the GCC. They do have centralized system of governance, and they are more or less capitalist entrepreneurial states with a very friendly business approach. They're also open to responsive and internal external pressures, and this is very evident in the long-term strategic plans they have, which lay the foundations of whole society development approach. And these tools, the strategic development plans, are very unique in the GCC set, and also globally. Many countries look at the GCC because the concepts of visions, long visions, it's really more or less, you can see it's still happening in Singapore, in GCC. So many people and researchers, scholars ask, is there something to learn from the GCC? Seeing the progress in the region, seeing the commitment to develop beyond the oil-centered economy. And so all these interesting transformations happening currently, and the commitment of all GCC countries to transform their economies away from the oil economy, the oil and gas economy is an indicator of positive transformative changes that are happening currently, I mean, and in the future. However, despite all this, there are some critics who argue that there are challenges, and there are many questions around central topics or themes. These include, but not limited to, citizenship participation in the policy process and improving decision-making and accountability, public sector capacities to plan and deliver the visions, the existing capacities, whether they meet and they're aligned to these ambitious plans, issues like the impacts of exclusive reliance on the expert bureaucratic model of policymaking over a participatory one, the rules and contributions of the private sector and civil society in implementing the visions, and last but not the least, the long-term impacts of these visions on the evolution of what we call the social contract between the citizens and the governments. So these are all many interesting topics and questions. Hopefully, inshallah, our distinguished guests will give us more insights from their country perspectives on what's going on with regard to these visions. We'll start with my dear friend, Dr. Raed bin Shams. I have introduced him, I mean, he's famous, Dr. Raed bin Shams, but we'll do a very short introduction again. Of course, he's the president of the International Institute of Administrative Sciences for the second consecutive term. And I'll stop here because he's famous. So, Fadal, Dr. Raed, the floor is yours, 20 minutes presentation, and then we'll move on to our next speakers. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I usually do this in Arabic, and I've did it in Saudi last time. But I would like to take it in English because now the audience is different and I would like to reach the messages in a different manner. It's not really a presentation. It's a journey of what we have done through the years until today. It's what we have moved through with time. I'm from a training institute.
Of course, please.
I'm from a training institute, so sitting down is like being shackled. So forgive me, it's a little bit more vibrant like this. So it's a journey that I will take you through it from where we have been until today and how things have really developed and some of the challenges that we have gone through and how we are really making some kind of if I would say, solutions to these challenges. The vision, always, when you speak about GCC visions, we usually speak mostly about economic visions. which is also true about Bahrain. It was what is called the Vision 2030. Was created and officially announced in October 2008. I think it was the first vision as such in the region, October 2008. It was meant to invigorate and expedite the country's economic growth. However, it was not meant to work in isolation. It was really meant to be working hand in hand with the political reform, which is spearheaded by His Majesty the King. So it is not in isolation as an economic, but it was really in complementing a much bigger political changes in Bahrain, which started in the year 2000. It was there, if I would call it the political reform. It was meant to institutionalize the rule of law, democracy, human rights, transparency, strengthening religious freedom, socio-economic rights, as well as officially recognizing freedom of free speech and freedom of expression. So again, we have major political changes, especially after the 1990s, in which in Bahrain, since 1973 until 2000, the parliament was abolished. And the government was the big brother. And when His Majesty King took over in 1999, 2000, the reforms that has been done politically have really changed our lives. We lived all of our lives through a certain period of time, a certain way of living, certain political situation. And this is where the Vision 2030 needs to be put. This is very important to put it into the proper context, to understand its other effects and other factors that really play within. Just to give you an example, before the 2000, we were speaking today about the work between the different players, governments, the public sector, the NGO, the private sector, the NGOs. I'll just give you an example of the NGOs. Before 2000, we had nearly 40 NGOs. Today we have more than 650 NGOs. 450 of them are active NGOs. Active to the extent that they contribute to the policy making, to the changes, to the programs, projects within the government. Not as consultation, but as agents sometimes. Now looking at the Vision 2030, the economic Vision 2030, so that it's really aspires by the 2030, the private sector should be able to drive economic growth in Bahrain independently. Again, the context in which the government was doing everything, now we are shifting towards more of the contribution in the economy through the private sector. The beauty is that the private sector in Bahrain is mainly managed and led by Bahrainis, family businesses and young entrepreneurs. Most of the expats in Bahrain, they are there working within this family business and with the entrepreneurs. Bahrain has sought to diversify its economy by investing in several sectors through this economic vision. It varies if I would call it the prioritization, depending on time. Family tourism is one of the sectors, logistics, healthcare tourism, financial services, telecommunication and digital economy, in the industrial sector, in particular the aluminum, and of course oil and gas. By the way, Bahrain has the least oil and gas in the whole Arab world. So when we speak about oil and gas, it's not that I have oil well near my door. So there are so many other things near my door apart from an oil well. There are so many mega projects, infrastructural projects. They amount to more than 22 projects, more than $30 billion. Just to give you an example, there are 5 new cities, not towns, cities, to be built, and some of them already started, amounting to 387 square kilometers. That's not big, right? Yeah, but that's in comparison to Bahrain. It's an expansion of land mass of 50%. Because we claim the sea and start working through that. I live now on a city fully built in the sea. The vision is based on key 3 principles: competitiveness, fairness, and sustainability. But let's think them a little bit differently. How can we really, as layman people, relate to those 3? So let's take it like this. Bahrain is a small state. Yet we were competitive in nature due to a vibrant history of cosmopolitan for more than 4,500 years. We are an archipelago in the Gulf with a trade between the East and the West. So we are by nature that entrepreneurship is part of our DNA. So we want to be really competing regionally, and we were competing in the region since the 30s of the last century. And we want to compete further and more with more vigor and uniqueness. However, the competitiveness, that's the first one, competition, right, or competitiveness. However, this competitiveness must be based on fairness, for all to join, for all to have a playing ground to work fairly together, and should be sustainable. I think the word sustainable today is not less than 1,000 times have been repeated, and every time it has a different meaning. So, but at least now we have 1,001 meaning for sustainable. This is where the private sector is being shaped by the government as a market regulator in an open and dynamic national and international markets. Therefore, modernizing the government of Bahrain to provide the services to the private sector is key. It's key, otherwise it's not going to work, because again, the government was doing everything before. This entails that we at the government should continuously improve our strategic planning, internal operations, and the use of technology, and so on and so forth, for all the necessary things to be done. Unfortunately, the financial constraints of the Kingdom of Bahrain hindered the implementation. Why? Because we have high national debt. Let me give you as a percentage in comparison. As a percentage of comparison, it's 0.0012% of the current US national debt. Yeah, but we are not with the US national debt, but at least to understand the magnitude, we are more than 100% of our GDP, but you can compare, it's only 13 billion in comparison to the 28 trillion in the US. This is, again, instrumental in our way of thinking, in our way of working. So the government started in 2016 a structured and vigorous program with the aim of achieving a balanced annual budget to reduce the public debt. We sought to align public finances with Bahrain's 2030 national vision and promote economic growth while preserving social stability. 2 lines under that, going back to the context, in which where we've been and the political changes and where we are now. We in Bahrain, it's not that much straightforward to have a decision for it to be implemented. Bahrain society is so vibrant. Our social mesh is based on ideological gatherings. The daily social gatherings is based on ideological rather than tribal or family and so on. With all the cuts and strenuous measurements, the government believes wholeheartedly that capacity building is the key for the achievement of the vision and its reforms. The capacity building is not just for individuals. The capacity building is of institutions. Other than that, no sustainability is possible. And in particular, I was just saying this to my colleague, and in particular, leadership. And in Bahrain, in particular in BIPA, the Institute of Public Administration in Bahrain, we have defined leadership towards our aim. The leadership is not by position. Leadership are traits, competencies, skills, souls that has to be there with people, within people along the way, from juniors to all seniors. And we have seen how much the juniors contributed to our goals. They are just joined the government. Just joined the government. Because they had that spirit of really making that change. And I was even discussing this earlier with my colleague Paul. Lots of youth are working voluntarily with the government. Again, not just as for consultation and so on, but as real agents working within projects, working with us, for example, in capacity building directly, free of charge. Therefore, we have created what is called the National Leadership Development Program, the NLDP, National Leadership Development Program, and the Master of Public Management, the MPM. Both have been financially supported indirectly by the government since 2016, and today they are directly refinanced structurally and institutionally to become, for the coming years, sustainable. The NLDP, the National Leadership Development Program, is project-based. It's linked to the SDGs for all of the levels. There are 7 programs within the NLDP. They are all linked to the SDGs. Each level, they understand differently, they act differently towards achieving the SDGs. We have more than 650 projects produced by its graduates. Great number of projects have been adopted and adapted by government entities, and they are there up and running on the ground. The graduates are becoming a major support community for the implementation and execution of the national strategy and the Vision 2030, and this is where we have created what we call the alumni, or our graduates network, in which they have their own communities of practice, like innovation community of practice, like the research community of practice, like the customer experience community of practice. They are working by themselves now to rework certain things within the programs. The MPM is an international executive master degree designed for our regional needs. The MPM, as I said, with the Aix-Marseille University, my colleagues over here, Emil Turk. And out of the 5 cohorts that we have finished, more than 120 Bahrainis have graduated, and around 4 to 6 graduates are with distinction. And that's the good part, because it is all evaluated by our colleagues independently. So it's nice to see really people who are top-notch coming in the public sector, bringing new thoughts, bringing new innovations, bringing solid scientific policies. Again, some of these theses are put into practice. The graduates are becoming a major support community, as I said, for the implementation and execution. Let me just give you, at the final stages now in my talk, 1 minute?
3 minutes.
I will finish. 6 minutes. 3 minutes, no worries. Let me just tell you something about the ROI. In the National Leadership Development Program, we do our research to calculate based on what is called the Kirkpatrick model, the 5 levels: learning, application, learning, application, impact, and of course the 5th level, which is the return on investment, which is calculated in the dollar terms so that we can really convert all of those non-financial things into money, something like saving time, efforts, and so on. So from the happiness, the happy faces, up to the dollar value. We have done 4 studies. The return on investment for the 5th level ranges between 176% to 830%, which means that for each and every Bahraini dinar spent, the government, quote to quote, or the society, quote to quote, managed to get 8 dinars back. On and above the political level alignment that we already have between the GCC countries, we are again trying to integrate ourselves within the development of the region, the GCC, and at the same time the Arab region. This is why we have created what we call is it minibar? Who told him? It's not minibar, right? It's called Minapar. So for you to remember it, it's not minibar, it's Minapar. It's the Middle East and North Africa Research Network, Minapar. It was created for the region, to the region, by the region, so that we can really make a difference in research and public administration. For example, also, we have an exchange program with INA in Tunisia, and we are working on another exchange program with INA in Algiers, and 2 other exchange programs. One of them we are under discussion with the Director General of Saudi, and another in Oman. Our GCC contributions and collaborations is very strong through the GCC Secretariat at all aspects of capacity building, and we have just had approved a new strategy for capacity building within the network of the region. It encapsulates 4 key objectives, for example: knowledge creation, public innovation, sharing of good practices, and international representation. I would emphasize on the 3rd one, for example, which is sharing good practices. Although we share lots of things between us, language, culture, and so on, but we have still lots of diversities. But at least we need to learn from each other. And this is why we emphasize, whenever we have our conferences, to have our own good practices rather than bringing the international practices on board with us. Otherwise, our work will be jeopardized. So we emphasize in Minapar, the first day of Minapar is about the Arab good practices rather than international good practices. The Bahrain team, we are so adamant to realize the Vision 2030 through its grand reforms and national strategy, through the hands, the minds, and the hearts of Bahrainis. We, the Bahraini team, simply what we call نعشق التحدي ونحب الإنجاز. We simply love challenge and love achievements. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rad, for a very insightful presentation. It's a great honor to invite our next guest, Dr. Yusuf Hamad al-Balushi. Dr. al-Balushi is a leading economist in Oman. He has over 25 years of professional experience, including being the chief economist of the Oman Vision 2040 Task Force and at the Central Bank of Oman. He served as an advisor on foreign direct investment to both Oman's Supreme Council for Planning and the IMF. He obtains a PhD from the University of London's King's College. He is widely published on regional economic and business issues, notably his 2018 monograph, Omani Economy, Globalization, and the Winds of Change, and Oman Vision 2030, The Pressures of Questions and the Entitlements of Answers. The floor is yours, Dr. Yusuf.
Thanks. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I revisit the approach of the presentation. I was thinking to take you through, briefing you about each of the GCC vision, but I thought let me revise the approach. So I will start by saying that we all agree that GCC country has progressed nicely in the last 5 decades. I mean, we can read it through different indicators, local and international indicators, per capita income, women empowerment, peace, stability. So we are really, in the last 5 decades was, the story was really exciting and very interesting for GCC country. However, we also, we need to understand that this was possible, yes, because of the wise leadership and the society of the people of the GCC, but mainly because of oil and gas. And it was the instrument for making things happen or fueling that 5 decades of the development. So on average, GCC relying 85% on the public budget. I mean, cross it. I'm not talking here only about Oman, even include other GCC nation. So the same applies, 60% for export, 55, 60% for the GDP. So, and unfortunately that we understand there is a lot of pressure on both sides, supply side and demand side of the oil, and we seriously think to reform, and really relying on oil for 5 decades is enough for the GCC, and they have currently enough space to do that reform. We nicely talk about the vision, about aspiration, about yes, we can, but in reality, I mean, we really get shaken in any oil price get under pressure. So we need to understand that, I mean, this is not a choice for us. It is a matter of either we make it or break it, because the situation is changing. Yes, we do have a high grade of readiness, but we are really having a lot of pressure. So this 5 decades of development, yes, create prosperity, create strong, what they call it, society. It comes with also some problem, fundamental problem. So we keep talking, I mean, since 70s about economic diversifications. And by the way, I mean, Bahrain is not the first country to have vision. Oman, 1995, announced their vision, Oman 2020. And it was a wonderful document. It really articulates how Oman need to move from oil to non-oil, how private sector, how NGO, how businesses, how society be empowered. The same, I'm sure, was applied in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in Qatar. But to be honest, we are having limited success all across the region. Why? Because oil price again go up, and we forget whatever we agree and whatever we inspire to do. We have a real challenge coming up now with the job creation. For example, I mean, in the early days of 70s, 80s, 90s, there was, you are talking about few hundred or few thousand people, local people looking for a job. Currently in Oman, we are having more than 70,000, 80,000 young Omani looking for a job. the current model relying on the government to create a job, on civil service, on defense, on police, it's not applicable. We are, I mean, the government becoming like an elephant, and the same apply, I think, across the region. So we need seriously to change in changing the business model or the development model, which is, as my colleague just said, that we are inspired to do it, and we strongly, I agree with him that GCC have all what it takes to do it. But I mean, the big questions: are we really moving to the right directions? We really see some of I mean, challenges related to the what they call it, the competitiveness, the moving toward more of the partnership. So the need of change, it's there, and we are seeing that the current business model relying on energy, and there is a huge energy landscape. We see renewables coming, we see a lot of technology improvement, so there is a changing in the energy landscape. Also, the stage of the development in all GCC country. For example, I mean, if I took Qatar or even Oman, they build very nice airport, they build very nice port, they educate their people. For what? To move to the next stage. So we need to make those ports busy, those airports busy. We are all across the region. We are having great relationship with the rest of the world. So we can really nicely be part of the global supply chain in terms of attracting foreign investment, attracting foreign technology, and yet to also being able to manufacture and export. So demographic change also one of the factors that pushing GCC country really to think on changing the current business model, which is based on Oman 2040, in Bahrain 2030, in Saudi 2030. But the important thing to understand that achieving those vision or sustainable development for 1002, it is not cheap. It is very expensive commodity. We need really to understand the different factors related to enable us to formulate the proper public policy. We keep listening since morning about public policy, but formulating public policy, taking all into consideration, social, economic, manpower, I mean, physical, monetary, labor, manufacturing, it is an art. And I think yet we are not having a sufficient awareness about what it takes to make all these elements working together. To me and to many others, I mean, to do this paradigm shift in the GCC country, we need to really to be innovative. We need really to not only inspire to do little improvement in economic diversification, little improvement in education, little improvement in women empowerment. That is not sufficient. We need a real paradigm shift. We need really to think differently. We need really to move to a new business model where rely heavily on private sector. We are currently relying only in the government. Government is the dominant player, job creator, and investors. We would like to move toward more of business development, where private sector can be the engine of growth, able to finance the budget and be able to finance. To me, this is an important slide, and that is our economy. That is the GCC. That is the GCC company, the GCC individuals. And it is essential that all GCC vision must focus in fixing this business cycle, because we do understand that there is always two sides of the business cycle. One is the injection, where the foreign currency is coming in, and there is the leakages where the money is going out. We see in our region that this business cycle moving only in one direction, where the money is coming from here, from export. We have export, local export, re-export. Majority of the fuel of this business cycle is coming from export. We have very little local companies working abroad and being able to transfer their dividend to the host economy. we are also, Qatar now is succeeding maybe to attract some services, like a student came and study and they are coming and paying money. And also having good medical care, so people come for medication. So the idea how we can really improve, because the current situations that, yes, money coming from here, from oil and gas, moving to the government pocket, government spend it only in two scenarios, either as a current, as a salaries, or maintenance, or as a capital to do more of nice road, nice hospital, nice university. And that creates the demand. The local demand by being created, and that's why where private sector is enjoying his time and being able easily to fulfill this demand by imports. So all of the GCC country heavily rely on imports of goods, import of services, and also that's why we can see worker remittances and dividend paid, because a lot of international company operating in the region, there's a huge cash flow. Also a lot of GCC going for tourism, for medication, for study abroad, and going their pocket full, and they came back, their pocket is empty. So the idea, the vision, any vision must just look to this cycle and try to fix it. We cannot stop or limit what they call it, import, that need to be there, but we need to enhance of attracting FDI, being able to, and this is the art of the public policy, is here. If we see this, the short-term cycle, what we do every day or every week, and that is what we call it in with the Prophet Yusuf, Surah Sayyidina Yusuf, as-sinin as-suman was-sinin al-ijaf. And that is, there is no particular medicine or to manage this transformation. It is all about the public policy. Again, it is a new public policy. We don't know it before here because money easily coming and we spend it. So now we are really seriously think to start applying what it takes for better trade policy, better investment policy, better of diversification policy, and how to have a proper mix of policy, because only talking about something and make it happen something else. That's why in this morning I asked about implementation. We can have best of the best vision, best of the best strategy, best of the best policy, but it's not being implemented, or it is being partially implemented. And to me, also, who's making the development? It's not only government. It is not only people and society. It is not only company. It's all of them. We need also to have a particular policy to deal with each players. Even the rest of the world, our friends, international friends, investors, importers, exporters. We need to manage it. So the vision, any vision, need really to put this on their focus and try to address it with a proper policy, because each one of those party has a cross interest. Everyone has his own objective. Government needs something, private business needs something, a student needs something, and society needs something. So the art of public policy is making all these things move to the right direction and to achieve So the idea, we can see that we are really, the region is heavily rely on the government, is dominant players, and private sector is also link whatever performance to the public sector. So this was, I mean to me it's very important to clarify that we are in the transformation stage. We are in a crossroad, and GCC leaders and GCC, what they call it, policymaker, aware of those challenges. But whether we are going to make it, I mean, this is really an important question. And whether having 20 years of vision, or only 5 years, or is it 20 years, all these need to be readdressed, and we need to be really innovative. But to me, and I think to most of you, I think GCC country has really progressing on achieving their transformation, but yet they have a lot to do. I will not cover, for example, 2030 Saudi Arabia. My good friend Dr. Abdurrahman definitely nicely is going to cover it. But I want to talk a little bit more about Oman. I was very close to this vision. I was the content expert. We work really hard. We really try to participate, all the society, the company, the youth, even the investors, and we come up with the systems, what they call simple statement, that we would like Oman to join the developed nation. And to be part of that nation, you need really to have economy which is really dynamic. Individuals need to be creative, need to be able to have a future good skill. He need to be healthy. He need really to be happy. So all these kind of thing, I think Oman is inspired to do. We have, I mean, we're always proud that, for example, the vision, it's not been, I mean, we've been formulated by us, by local Omani. Maybe we don't have the pocket to bring McKinsey. So it's done by Omani, it's written by Omani, and there was a lot of committee involved. And we really also done from the people to the people. We participate. I mean, we visit all the governorated. We show them the key issues with the key solution, the key policy, and we took their own input, and we try to revise the vision until we achieve the vision we have today. I think the same apply for our beautiful Bahrain, Qatar. I think the vision is clear, and I think Qatar is moving fast in this directions. The same with new Kuwait vision, and which has, if you can see all the GCC talking about economy, about social, about environment, so that is the common goal. But I mean, to achieve all these things, we need really to rethink a lot about UAE, our great neighbors, also the same, the Bahrain. And this is a lot of, if you are interested to read more about Oman and Oman Vision 2040, plenty of materials available, and we will be hopefully able to support you in this. Without further ado, I'd like to thank you again for listening, and for the organizer for inviting me.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf, for a very rich and insightful presentation. I would like to invite Dr. Abdurrahman Al-Arifi. Dr. Al-Arifi is a senior consultant at the Saudi Institute of Public Administration, IPA, serving as a trusted advisor to His Excellency, the Director General of the IPA, proffering strategic analysis and advice across a broad spectrum of policies, regulations, initiatives, and operational decisions. Dr. Al-Arifi holds the position of the Deputy Director General of the International Institute of Administrative Sciences. Prior to his appointment as an advisor to the Director General of the Saudi Institute of Public Administration, Dr. Al-Arifi was the Deputy Director General for Research and Consultation. His main responsibilities were to oversee, evaluate, and innovate IPA's research and consultancy services provided to public and private sectors. The floor is yours, Dr. Abdurrahman.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. First of all, I would like to thank the School of Economics, Administration and Public Policies at the Doha Institute of Graduate Studies for hosting us, for their hospitality and generosity, which is not surprising. They just host one of the best World Cup ever, Qatar. So I would like to thank you, and I would like also to thank the IIAS, the International Institute of Administration Science, for doing such an important dialogue and conference and events, where these venues we really negotiate and discuss some of the most important things these GCC countries need, especially like this topic with regard to the public policies. I would like to use those 15 or 20 minutes, and I will just count myself. You're not going to deduct the 6 minutes that Dr. Wright took, right? You're not? Okay, good. So I'll take you in a journey, if I may say, about, I would claim a successful story of Saudi Vision 2030. This presentation will be divided to what is it, how did we do it, did it work, and obviously what's challenges that we meet along the way. So I would start by saying that this is a transformative economic and social reform blueprint, where in this vision, there's a long-term, and if I might say crystal clear vision that's clearly stated what we want to do, which is a true prosperity for the Saudis citizen. That's basically the vision. What is it about? And this is how our visionary leader, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Minister and the Prime Minister of Saudi Arabia, stated as an ambitious yet achievable blueprint, which expresses Saudi long-term goals and expectation and reflects our country's strength and capabilities. He's basically the engineer of this vision. And I think by his leadership that we were able to achieve such an important transformative economic and social reform. So this vision based on 3 pillars. The first one was the fact that this is the land of the 2 holy mosques. And these pillars are intrinsic and extrinsic strengths and very important advantages for the Saudis, or for Saudi Arabia as a country. So the first one is the fact that this in the heart of the land of the 2 holy mosques, in the heart of in the Middle East, and that they are a global investment powerhouse. And of course the location, because interconnect 3 continents, as well as other strengths, intrinsic, the fact that this country has 65% of the population are under 35 years old. The second largest proven petroleum reserve in the world, 16.2%, and one of the richest countries in minerals. They estimated that it's around 1.3 trillion US dollars, and many, many more. So the vision actually built around 3 themes. The first theme is the vibrant society, which is actually establishing a strong foundation for economic prosperity. The second theme is a thriving economy. And the third theme, an ambitious nation. And I will try to explain each theme and how it's actually being realized. It's been realized by specifying a very clear objectives, and to be specific, 96 objectives. So for the first theme, the vibrant society, we want to achieve what? We want to increase the life expectancy from 74 to 80. Having increased the income from the entertainment from 3% to 6%. We want to increase our ranking in the OECD Social Capital Index from 26 to 10 by 2030. To have the Saudi city to be recognized in the top ranked, to have 3 Saudi cities to be recognized in the top ranked 100 city in the world. To increase the ratio of individual exercising at least once a week from 13% to 40%. Very specific. and to increase our capacity to welcome Umrah visitors from 8 million to 30 million every year. And to double the number of Saudi heritage sites registered with UNESCO, to rise from the current position 25 to 10 countries on the Global Competitive Index. And this is just a view. This is just only with the vibrant. The thriving economy, we want to increase the FDI, the foreign direct investment contribution to the GDP from 3.8 to 5.7. We will also want to increase the private sector contribution to the GDP from 40% to 65%. The small and medium contribution to the GDP from 20% to 35%. To lower the rate of our Saudi unemployment from 11.6 to 7%. To increase the women participation in the workforce from 22% to 30%. And to increase the public investment fund asset from 600 billion to over 7 trillion Saudi riyals. And lastly, the third theme, this is just also an examples of the objectives, the ambitious nation, or ambitious nations, improving our e-government survey index ranking from 36% to 5%. Improve our government effectiveness index ranking from 80 to 20. Another example, to increase non-oil government revenue from 163 billion riyals to 1 trillion. And another example, like to raise the non-profit sector contribution to the GDP from less than 1% to 5%, to rally 1 million volunteers per year compared to 11,000 in 2016. So this is just an overview of how the vision strategic objectives are cascaded. So you will see at the top the 3 themes, and then the level 2 branch objectives, and then the 96 level 3 strategic objectives. So how are we going to achieve this? Well, we introduce in this vision 13 executive programs that oversees and direct the implementation. And let me take a minute here and explain this is, how this is done. Each of these executive programs has a minister who is in charge of these programs, who have at least a weekly meeting with his colleague regarding the implementation, how our KPI is achieved, is these objectives are achieved or not. If there is an obstacle, how we can overcome them in a weekly basis. That's very significant. We are talking about 13 programs. Some of these programs are actually chaired by His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Some of these, this is the kitchen that actually implement and make sure these objectives are achieved. Of course, each one of these programs has its own governance model, and there is always rules and responsibilities for each government agencies that working on that executive program. I was fortunate to be part of the National Transformation Program, and myself directed one of initiative and participate in 3 other initiatives from 2017 to 2021. And alhamdulillah, we achieved 100% of those initiatives ahead of the scheduled time for reaching the objectives. Well, did it work? So usually they said, actions speak and achievements speak louder. Well, it did. Before the vision, which means before 2016, this is just an example, because there is so many information and that I can share with you later on. But just an example, waiting period for housing subsidy, it's from 15 years now immediate. Specialized health consultation taking place within 4 weeks, 50%, now it's 80%. Waiting period for Hajj and Umrah visa, it was taking 14 days. Now it's 5 minutes. Participation of women in the labor force, it was 19.4 back in 2006. It's now 33%, and just recently, I just checked with ADA, they said it's 37%. 37%. That's even higher than EU average and the G20 average. The non-oil revenue, it was 166 billion, now it's 369 billion Saudi riyals. And the digital government service maturity, it was 60%, now it's 81.3%. And also there is other achievements I want to share with you here. In 2022, the economy grew 8.5%. This is the fastest growing major economy in the world, by the way. Contactless payment adoption in Saudi Arabia grew from 4% in 2017 to 94% at the end of 2020. Now it's 96%. The last time I used cash is like 4 months ago. Just to show. 90% of received care within 4 hours. It was 36% now in 26. It's now 90%. An initiative called Soha Virtual Hospitals is the largest in the world, linking 130 hospitals and provide 34 services. Even from in academia, scientific research publication increased 120% in 4 years. And I think numbers speak louder. Saudi Arabia has ranked first in the Arab world and 12 in G20 and 14 globally in the publication in COVID-19 research. This is just an example. Saudi Arabia has welcomed 67 million visitors in 2021. A sure sign that the tourism is becoming a reality. Those numbers are becoming a reality. Imagine we are only halfway. It's even not halfway to 2030. And the aim was 100 million. We are now almost 70 million. And now the KSA ranked 8th in the world competitive among G20 countries. So I just, if you allow me, just share with you some of what we call the Giga projects funded by the BIF, which is the Public Investment Fund. I hope you all heard of a NEWM. This is really a transformation project. And this is, where is it exactly? This is one of its project that inside NEWM, which is called The Line, is expected to create 380,000 jobs. NEWM, as an initiative, is supposed to bring 180 billion as a contribution to the GDP by 2030. This area is 100% powered renewable energy. It has 450 kilometers of coastline. sub-project of NEOM is called The Line. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but The Line, it's a very ambitious project, but it's real, and it will happen. This project has no roads, cars, or emissions. It's a city. It's run by 100 renewable energy, only 200 meters wide, but 170 kilometers long. Residents will also have access to all facilities within 5 minutes walk. High-speed rail with an end-to-end transit in 20 minutes. It's supposed to be eventually to accommodate 9 million people. And there's so many, but because of the time, like Roshan, Red Sea Project, and others. So was the journey easy? Was it with no challenges? Of course not. So if you allow me, I just want to discuss with you just two issues, and I'm aware of the time, but so what's the challenges that did the Saudi Vision 2030 impose, especially in the public sector, and how did the public sector overcome that? Also, I want to talk a little bit about the GCC exceptional opportunities that I think it will benefit all these countries. So from the challenges part, I will touch just a few areas because there's so many challenges regarding the Vision 2030 and how we face these challenges and how we overcome them. But the public sector before 2016, it wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't good as well. I mean, it was really need a lot of reform. Legislations, those foreign investment, they don't want to come unless there is a clear vision about the laws and how we're going to open our businesses and protect our businesses. So that part was really a big reform. From the strategic thinking, I'm not saying that the public sector doesn't understand strategy or implement strategy, but the strategic thinking wasn't there or mature enough, or at least it's not enforced. Yeah, we do know what's vision, mission, objectives, KPIs, project initiatives, but wasn't enforced. It wasn't in the culture inside the public sector. So that was a big, in my opinion, challenge. Also, the communication. There is communication between government agencies, but wasn't effective in a way that really beneficial to all parties. I mean, it's very well could happen that a government agency spend money and time on a project where it's already been done on the other government agency. Also, the fact that, you know, the work environment and the bureaucrat in a negative way, the long unnecessary processes and, you know, not having the customer as high priority, sometimes not even in the radar. So that was a big challenge. To transform these government agencies to focus and provide them with a really effective plan and medicine to overcome these challenges wasn't easy. But I will highlight some of the things that have been done during the vision. And I would say that this wasn't, as I said, easy or pleasant, but sometimes it was harsh even, but it was necessary. And Prince Mohammed bin Salman said 6 years ago, and I try to read it, that we will immediately adopt wide-ranging transparency and accountability reform. And through the body set up to measure the performance of government agencies, hold them accountable for any shortcoming. We will be transparent and open about our failure as well as our success. And we will welcome ideas in how to improve. And it has been done. And I will start with the public sector employee, like resistant to change, and I think in Saudi Arabia, I will finish with that. I think we did a very effective campaign to explain the vision to the public sector. The public sector was skeptical. They don't understand what this is, how we're going to be part of it, of this mega visionary thing. How can we participate? Will it affect us in a good way? Will it benefit us? And I think that's very legitimate questions, and I think the campaign was successful in explaining these concerns to the public and to the employee for public sector. And I will share with you one story which happens to me personally when we first started the Vision 2016. They invite all the mid and top management in the government sector to a gathering for weeks. For weeks. We spend like 12 hours every day on a big conference hall venue, where this has been partitions in a way that each ministry and its affiliated government agencies are sitting together to discuss and propose initiatives and projects. For weeks. And every 1 hour, 2 hours, a minister comes by and discuss and challenges us. Minister. Just to imagine that this was like a paradigm shift. We don't have this kind of work environment, if I may say. But after that, we did come up with a draft, or at least a first draft of the Vision 2030. And lastly, I thought this is important. I think there is a lot of opportunities that we don't want to miss, especially for the GCC countries. And I think, I just want to give you an example. Yes, we do have, we did a great job with the free travel for GCC citizens undergoing the electrical interconnect grid and custom and many more. But I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. And I just want to share with you a giga project called OneWeb New Joint Venture, where it's actually a project, a 200 million project, to bring high-speed internet, high-speed satellite internet service to the region. So we can use that for the GCC countries. You didn't need to invest on other ways of connecting people to the internet. This will be cheaper and easier, and it's high speed. And it's been implemented, and it's supposed to be done by the end of 2024. And OneWeb, by the way, it's a big company. So they're supposed to actually have over 600 satellites to blanket the whole Earth. It's similar to SpaceX with Elon Musk. Thank you for listening, and sorry if I took more time than thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdurrahman. This is really a very insightful and fascinating, presentations. I personally learned a lot about many of the interesting things, developments happening in the three countries. I'll take advantage of being the chair. I'll ask the first question, and then we'll open it up for more questions. My question relates to the visions and the future of the GCC. Which direction we're going? Is it more collaborative modes of joint planning, taking into account the GCC structure, the future of it, or are countries more or less acting in silos, like each country worries about its own national plans, own visions? So if you could give us more insights on this, so which directions we're moving on. We're all aware there was a GCC crisis, and thanks God it's over now. We're back to normal. So where is the future taking us? More integration, more collaborative planning, or still independent silos, etc. So that's my question. We'll open it up. Dr. Layla, تفضلي.
Thank you very much to all the presenters. It's really a very refreshing session to be hearing only about visions and projects and initiatives and good things happening on the ground. Coming from an academic background, I'm very interested in learning tips and tricks for how you managed in Saudi Arabia to increase faculty publications to 120% in 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions, then we'll give the chance for the guests to answer. No, تفضل. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you. So I talk in Arabic to be more accurate. محمد أنور الهزيتي من المغرب، طالب دكتوراه ورئيس قسم إعادة هيكلة الإدارات ولا التمركز الإداري بوزارة الانتقال الرقمي وإصلاح الإدارة بالمغرب. منذ الصباح استمعت إلى يعني العروض التي قدمت حول الدولة النموية، ثم هذه العروض القيمة، وهنا أشكر الإخوة المتدخلين على عروضهم القيمة وعلى التجارب الناجحة، لأننا نعتبر أن التجارب الناجحة تساعد على، خاصة مع التقارب، يمكن أن تساعد على طرح مجموعة من تجارب أخرى. السؤال الذي أريد أن أطرحه، منذ الصباح نتكلم عن التنمية المستدامة أو مشاريع استراتيجية، ولكن في حالات مستقرة، يعني في ظل الاستقرار. السؤال المطروح أنه بعد أزمة كوفيد ثم بعد الأزمة الأوكرانية الحالية، يعني هل نفس الباراديغمات يعني اللي تطور الدول يمكن أن نستعملها في بعد الأزمة؟ وهنا ألا ترون معي أنه نحن نتطور من الدولة النموية إلى الدولة المرنة، يعني resilient states، وهذا باراديغم جديد يعني يجب أن نتعامل معه بشكل جيد. النقطة الثانية بجملة جملة وهو أنه أليس الآن ضروري أن نتكلم معنا على السيادة الاقتصادية للدول، لأنه الأزمة طرحت أسئلة كبرى لا بد من الإجابة عليها، وهل سنبقى يعني ملتزمين بدول أخرى أو مرتبطين باقتصادات دول أخرى؟ وشكرا.
شكرا. Thank you. Okay, one more question, and please short, precise, because we're running out of time. We'll take a question from. تفضل. Okay, we'll come back for a second round. تفضل معالي الوزير.
مساء الخير. موسى أبو زيد، فلسطين. حقيقة يعني ما سمعناه مبشر وطموح، لكن ما أريد أن أسأله بشكل محدد. الموارد البشرية التي استندت لحالة من الأريحية، يعني كانت على مدار سنوات طويلة في ظروف مريحة، الآن أمام هذا التحول المهم واللي أنا بعتبره حاجة ملحة لكل دول الخليج، من الاعتماد على النفط إلى الصناعة ومجالات كثيرة، يعني جعلت أو بنت النمور الآسيوية في 20 أو 30 سنة الماضية. هل الموارد البشرية الموجودة اليوم في مواقع العمل قادرة أن تحمل هذه الرؤية وتصعد فيها ونراها فاكت في 2030؟ موضوع الثاني، مدارس الإدارة ومعاهد التدريب. أنا دائما بشعر بالقلق على هذه المعاهد. هل منح أو يعني وجود برامج أكاديمية تمنح الدارسين في هذه المعاهد الماجستير وبعضها الدكتوراه، هل هو دور المدارس الإدارة الحكومية الحقيقي، أم في ظل وجود مثل هذه الرؤى المهمة ألم يحن الأوان لتركيز على الكفايات، على العقلية، على السمات، على القيم، على القدرات الاستثنائية التي يمكن أن تمكن وبسرعة ومن خلال التدريب وليس التعليم بل التعلم لحمل مثل هذه الرؤى وجعلها قادرة أن تصبح واقع ملموس يصنع فرق حقيقي في دول الخليج بالاتجاه اللي ذاهب إليه.
شكرا معالي الوزير. Let's take two more questions and then we'll have to close the sessions. We'll give the opportunity for our guests to answer. Two more questions, please. Over there and Dr. Muhammad over here. So, and خلاص, I'm really sorry, but the guests will stay with us so we can continue the discussions outside during the break. Thanks.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the presentations. My name is Dr. Halima Kunyute. I'm from South Africa. I just wanted to understand the aspect of integrity management in the trainings that have been outlined, just in terms of the embedment, also of the culture and religious values, given this particular project. Did that play an integral role? I did hear that you said that the first day is actually focused on the Arabic or cultural aspect. So I just really want to understand on that perspective. And the special focus on women empowerment programs, given that your statistics did divulge the fact that you've moved quite a bit and in a short period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last question, Dr. Muhammad over there. تفضل. هناك.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mohammed Omar, invited professor of public management at the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. Thank you very much for this presentation, very insightful. My question, we are living actually in the era of collaborative governance. And I would like to know about the impact or the situation of, or the role of collaborative governance in the implementation of these visions in your countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. Okay, so I mean, feel free to take on any of these questions in no more than 2 minutes for each. How about this? And then we'll break apart, okay? تفضل يلا. يلا دكتور رائد. يلا اليمين يمين تفضل.
Shiyab means the elderly people first.
And it's a sign of respect, not an insult, okay? So it's like in the Arabic culture. Okay, تفضل.
طيب ودي أعلق بس ما حتكون حلوة تعلق. There is like two questions with regard to the increase in the number of research with 120% in 4 years, and how did you guys do that? There was a mandate that we are living in a crisis with the COVID at that time. And a lot of academic institutions in Saudi Arabia felt the responsibility that we need to contribute. And that's how these institutions send like an announcement that we need to contribute to academic research for the, I will give you an example. In IBA, Institute of Public Administration, we did a special issue from our journal just for research on the COVID-19. And I think this is just the fact that they feel the responsibility that those academic, even though they are academic, they have to contribute to this crisis. This is for your answer. With regard to another question, if I can recall, is can you remind me what was the? Okay, well, we explained it. I don't think it was about the Women in Progress.
future of integration, which is it?
Okay, anyway. Yes, with regard to how to, for instance, follow up the Vision 2030, there is a government agency. It's called the National Center of Performance Measurement. This agency is basically in charge of following up on these programs. And they like in a daily basis, having reporting from all those initiatives. There are thousands, by the way, projects and initiatives under this, vision. So there is always a follow-up and a feedback that's sent back to this national agency, which is called أداء, يعني اختصارا باللغة العربية. شكرا.
Performance, yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you so much. Dr. Yusuf or Dr. Raed, please. I think it's open.
First of all, I mean, when it comes to the vision, we all understand, I think, that the GCC has limited time or limited space to do this reform. And I think we strongly believe that it is the country has all what it takes, all GCC country. And our hope that this is going to be collaborative visions, because complementary they can work, honestly, because let's say if we talk about Oman, it is geographically located in a place where they can be really strong logistic players for the region. And again, for fishery, for example, we are close to this Indian Ocean where stock of fish, and so we can really, that's none of GCC country has those two sectors. For example, UAE, they are good on services. Saudi Arabia, very good on petrochemicals and oil and gas. Our host here in Qatar, they are strong in building industry base on gas. For the progress is there, and the good news about the region that our big brother Saudi Arabia is wake up now. And we'll follow. I mean, they are leading the transformations, and we will be start competing in a good way. I mean, because they are really moving fast, and there used to be very complicated formula with them. Now they succeed. For us, the rest of the GCC, we are going to make it. I mean, after, inshallah. When it comes to the women empowerment, I mean, in Oman, from long time, women being empowered. And we strongly believe that still, I mean, an average in GCC, I think around the participation is around 15%, which is high below the global average of 34, something like that. But we string it, it's like a wing. We cannot fly without women being on the right place and participating and contributing to the vision. I think we are going to see a new GCC in coming few years. We have very, very young, I mean, what they call it, transformative leaders. And I think with the friends of different global players, I think we will be able to attract whatever missing in our formality of development. I mean, technology or FDI or market or whatever. So, I mean, again, we would like to conclude by saying that this kind of platform is very useful, and it's really inspiring, because inspiration is the key. We need this inspiration to be translated to our people, because again, the vision is not act of the government. We said it's act of the people, act of the local companies. And once they've been inspired, they can really achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Raed, مسك الختام.
الله يحفظك. شكرا جزيلا. I would start probably with some parts of what has been done. For example, just to give you the development stages, as with the things, how are they moving? We've finished the labor reform. We are the final stages of the health reform with the implementation. AWS and the telecom sectors are already reformed. The telecom sector is fully reformed. AWS is the regional hub in Bahrain as part of the technology development. oil and gas projects, 2.5 billion have already been finished. The aluminum expansion for the 6 smelters already finished, up and running. Aramex, DHL as logistics, they are already in place in Bahrain. They have the regional hub in Bahrain. 2 major cities have already been created. The 5, which I said, they are more and above those 2 cities. The new airport is already opened, which means that you need to come to Bahrain. It's just a stone throw. Bahrain is still key as an international financial hub. The power generation and the water desalination, the public housing is all done with the private sector rather than the public sector. And when it comes to the GCC, the integration, we already have the customs integration now. We already have, for example, we are expanding the US trade agreements, and now we have the trade agreement with China. It's nearly finishing. We have the borders open, nearly open, but not like in Europe, but at least we have it through the ID cards, which is much more faster. And when it comes to the before and after crisis, as was mentioned by my colleague, we worked together during the COVID-19. Bahrain and the UAE, we have learned together, even with the vaccination, how to be done, which type of things, and how things are. We have communicated together on how we can change our way of thinking. For example, when it comes to the meticulous understanding who is who, what's going to happen, how the technology works, we have worked together through the region. Human resources. I will speak about Bahrain. Bahrain has its own, learning started in 1919, and Bahrainis have always had challenging life. And challenging life means that they have to work their way forward, proving themselves. It's not an easy way to go. And this is where I think we have really been able to capitalize on the Bahrainis to move forward. When it comes to IPAs, as my colleague was mentioning, the Institutes of Public Administrations, in Bahrain, we are always, as I said, project and competency-based learning. We only have one MPM, which is done with an international organization or international university and a Bahraini university. And we mostly do training, in particular in Bahrain, in BIPA as Bahrain. Integrity management. My colleague was mentioning the question. At the core of our competency model for the National Leadership Development Program, we have the citizens, and at the sphere controlling all of this are the values, and we go through this meticulously. And it is linked to our culture, it's linked to our religion, because it is designed by Bahrainis, implemented by Bahrainis, so we have it directly involved. Women involvement, we have 53% working in the government, 30% in the private sector, and we are in Bahrain demanding the rights for men. If I would say that, because we have the Supreme Council for Women, and it is really making huge differences. And I'm glad also that my colleagues from the GCC are working together to develop the region based on our experience that we had during the last several years. The collaborative governance. Engagement is a spectrum. And I probably have mentioned, it's not just listening. Listening is only one part of it, one end of it. But at the end is to create really agents from the people that you're working with. And it's a major shift of thinking, a major shift of working, a major shift in how we really look at our clients, our users, our citizens. So we have both all the spectrum, to the extent that we have the Bahrainis designing the policies, designing their needs, directly and working with us to implement, not just we are implementing and based for their needs, but they are part of the implementation themselves. Shukran. I finished.
Okay, thank you so much for our special guests, and thanks for accepting our invitation to come on this panel. Very exciting, very insightful discussion. Inshallah, the future will just be better and better and better. Let's take a group photo.